Hi. So I know some of you think this is a libation station. It's not. So I'll explain what it is in a minute here. I want to talk to you this morning about your mind. First, I have an exercise for you. I want you all to point to your brain. I'll do it too. Okay, now point to your mind. That was weird. Because the mind is invisible and not a physicality in your life. So you can't point at it really. I mean, well, you can do this, but that's cool. Not to take anything away from your brain. Your brain's quite amazing. Your brain weighs about 3.5 pounds. And within it, it has 100 billion neurons. 100 billion neurons. Those are cells that actually can take electrical impulses and move them and collect them. It's quite a feat that it does. It does actually make your brain the most sophisticated and complex part of your body. Maybe the most complex thing in the world. So take nothing away from your brain. But I want to talk to you about your mind. This thing that is invisible. This thing that is elusive in some ways. This thing that we think we understand and then we don't. It's different than your brain with 100 billion neurons. Oh, and by the way, those neurons, that's why they call the doctors, the brain doctors, neurologists. The neurons have up to 10,000 synaptic connections per cell. Isn't that incredible? I'm back on your brain now. Now, not all of them do. Some of them only have 1,000. But truly, if you start calculating how many impulses can be received, it's extraordinary. Yet your brain in and of itself can't do much with that information that it's transferring from your senses. It takes mind to do that. It takes your mind to do that for you. Now, mind has two basic components, and you know this. It has a conscious aspect to it, and it has a subconscious aspect to it. Both are incredibly important, and they're quite different. My research shows that we in our conscious mind can actually process between 5 and 7 thoughts in a second. I don't remember ever processing 5 to 7 thoughts in 1 second. But the researchers say that you can do that. And when I started thinking about it, it was like, okay, if I'm a world-class figure skater and I want to do a triple axel at the Olympics, I'm going to be having at least 7 thoughts when I'm doing that. So there are times when really maybe we need 7 thoughts. But let's compare that to your subconscious mind that is processing 2 million bits of information in that same second. 2 billion bits of information. That's passing things from your eyes and your ears and your nose and your touch faculty into information that your brain can process but not really digest. It takes your mind to do that, to figure out what that means. So all your life, and my life as well, we've been trying to figure out how to live in this physical universe by using this mind to create ideas and ways of knowing what's going on. And that's all very important and very valuable. Most of that happens when you're young, when you don't have a lot to compare things to, so you start setting up these understandings of how life works, their beliefs. And one thing that beliefs do is they work like filters. So that when all this raw data, this billions of bits of data are coming through your brain every second, when that's going on, you need your mind to be able to use this information, because otherwise it's just too overwhelming and it won't get you anywhere. So we have these systems within our bodies, and I like to call them filters. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate for you today. The subconscious mind. We have filters, mental filters, and these filters are essential for us to be able to process information in our lives. There are 3 elements to this filtering process. The first one is called deletion. What does that mean? It means that about 99.9% of the information that's coming into your brain is of no great value to you. So deletion eliminates it. I mean, it's still in your subconscious mind, but it doesn't come to you consciously. If it did, you'd be so overwhelmed you couldn't function. This is one of the issues with autism, that those filters aren't there for people who have autism, so that they're just bombarded with information. And they can't process it all, and that's why life can be a struggle for someone going through that. We, however, have the systems to do that. We have the filters that help us delete things so that we don't have to think about them, even though they're right there before us. They're just not, at that moment, important to us. And at any moment, we can change our focus from where we are to something else and change what's being deleted so that we don't have to pay attention to what we were looking at before. The next form of activity that your subconscious mind does is generalization. Thank God for generalization, because it's too much information. So we want to put it in a box. And that helps us to know what's going on, to know what we're seeing, to have already identified and letting our mind process that and tell us that these major things are going on, so we can focus at a series of bits of information and not the whole thing. So that really helps, this idea of generalization. The third one is the most interesting to me, and that's that your subconscious mind helps you distort information. Not a bad thing now, because in one sense, because if we had to accept it as the raw data that it is without having any judgments, maybe not too strong a word, discernment about what this is and what it means to us, we would do things that wouldn't make much sense. We'd have to keep relearning things over and over again. The problem with distortion is that a lot of things that we believed when we set these filters up in our mind really don't serve us anymore. However, they're still there. Now, if I asked you to take some paper and write down everything you believe, these would be the filters of your subconscious mind. If I asked you to write them all down, you couldn't, because they're not accessible that way generally, randomly. They're available to us when something reminds us of it. It's like if we see a fire and we've had an experience of being burned, we're going to have that experience. And that is just one of thousands of possibilities of these filters that you have in mind. And as I said, they're automatic. You don't have to think about it. That feeling, that idea that goes with something that your senses are perceiving comes immediately to you. Split second, it's there. And you know exactly what you think about it at that moment, what you need to do. Now, if you imagine we were still back in the time of Neanderthals and cavemen and such, it'd be good to know that it's not good to go over and pet the kitty, right? So you want this information. However, a lot of it isn't serving us anymore. The bad news is that it's automatic. It's going to pop up as soon as something comes up. The good news is that once you know it's there, you can change it. You're not stuck with it your entire life. Some people think they are. They feel like, this is the way I've always believed it is, and it's the way I'll always believe, and they're kind of stuck there, without considering there might be some better way to see this, maybe some better way to understand and react to something that's happening, rather than to react impulsively based on what happened when you were 4. So this is your chance to look at some of those. Now, as I said, you can't call them up on your own. There has to be something that brings it up into your conscious mind so that you can draw that information. And that's usually how it happens. However, once it's up and you see it, you can question it. You don't have to accept that it's the law. And the truth is that we all do this. I don't remember when it was. Sometime in the last year or so, I was talking with somebody about something, and I remember distinctly saying, yeah, it's really hard. And they looked at me and said, only if you want it to be. And I go, oh, that's my line. So in my mind, I still had a filter that whatever that conversation was about was hard. So when I receive that information, I go to hard. You do it too. It's impossible not to be doing this in your life. But again, the point that I make to you today, the value of this is that you can change it once it's up. You can think about it. You can decide what you want it to be. So I have some examples for you today. And because the conversation is about mental filters, I thought I'd bring my air conditioning filters over and give them some specific meaning for the purpose of this example that I want to give you. So I've got 6 examples, and I want to talk about them and about how we could go about changing them in our lives. You want to do this? Okay, all right, let's do this. Let's do the first one. Now, let me be very clear. You do not have one fear filter. You probably have thousands. They're things that you haven't experienced working out yet. They're things in the future. Fear's all about the future. We're not afraid of the past. We're not afraid of right now. Even if something happens right now and we get afraid, it's because that thing that's happening right now could create something in the future we don't want. That's how fear works. And I'm not saying there aren't some things that it would be healthy to be afraid of. Remember the kitty? There are some things that we need to be very mindful of, not just forgetting and doing inappropriately. It's okay to have fear. What fear doesn't do for us well through this system is that it gets us stuck. We get stuck with that idea of fear. And here's how it works in your subjective or subconscious mind. Every time you think it and believe it so, and think it and believe it so, and think it and believe it so, it happens again. It gets stronger in you. It gets more solid in you, so that that's the truth you believe, even though there really are alternatives. So with the idea of experiencing something, receiving data, raw data in the world, and having a fear reaction because it went through all your filters, but that one popped, that fear filter popped on this particular thing, what else could you do at that moment? How could you treat it differently? Well, the common words that we use here as we move from fear to faith, but I want to be more general in this sense, because when you're afraid, I'm not sure you're really hooked into the idea of faith. But you are hooked into the idea of possibilities. Maybe this could be experienced differently than you're experiencing it by being afraid of it. Maybe there's something else to know. Maybe there's a different way to reflect on it and understand it. Maybe there's some questions to ask. What are the possibilities of how this could not be the problem that your subjective mind, your subconscious mind is telling you it's going to be? What is that? Well, only you can know. But by asking the question and creating a possibilities filter means that you will always ask, what could this be? How could this work differently? How is this okay? Because the truth is that everything I've ever experienced, even the hardest stuff, has had value in it. It's helped me to change my life in a way, at least not to do that again. And if it's not about that, it's about directing me away from something that wasn't working for me. Possibilities are the place where we can really filter our lives to make sure that everything that we're looking at is working out, because it is. It is if we'll simply allow ourselves to do that. When we're playing on this side, all we're going to get is more stuff that we don't like in our lives. So let's do this one. Let's do some possibilities, okay? Here we go. Let's see. Anybody got this filter? Because if I don't do it, it's not going to get done right. If I'm not watching every step, every part of it, something's going to get screwed up and I'm going to have to pay a price. Fear-based, absolutely, but it's one of those that we as adults play with all the time, is that we lack that thing that will tell us that everything really is all right. So if we didn't have this filter, what could we have? A lot of words could fit. I picked certainty. Certainty that things are working out. That I'm not stuck in looking at the circumstances that are limited before me, but that there's more to know, there's more to do. There's a way that this thing that I so much want to control working out in a certain way is going to work out anyway. It's going to be okay. It's already okay. And to be certain about that and not to be in the ambiguous place of needing to control it for fear it won't work out stops us from getting where we want to go. However, when we are certain that everything is okay, we are pushing the events and circumstances of our lives toward okayness. And even if it doesn't turn out exactly like you planned, chances are it will turn out way better than you thought, especially when you were trying to control it. So let's work on certainty and let go of control. Does that sound all right? All right. You got one of these? I have to do it. I have to go there. I have to write it. I have to make the call. I have to do it. I have no choice. That's malarkey. We always have choices. Always. There's never a circumstance where there's only one choice. There may be only one choice you're thinking about, and you may think you have to do that, but that is a very limited idea. This one will really put you in a corner if you think you have to. Because what comes with that? Resentment, upset, anger, confusion, more fear. If I have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. Well, what if we did it this way? What if we got to do it? What if we said, oh, okay, this is the direction that I seem to be going in my life, and this thing is before me. I guess it's mine to do. I'm going to do it. Yay. And be okay with it. Because the energy you put into doing something in your life is the energy of the thing you're going to get back. So if you do it reluctantly or begrudgingly, you're going to end up not being happy with the result. So get to do stuff. And it'll feel totally different to you. Okay? All right. Oh, I love this one. Now, fairness is a word that our culture accepts. It's important. Things should be fair. Everybody should get, be equal, right? Sorry, folks, that's not how it works. The spiritual life is not a life of fairness. Spiritual life is a life that you create based on your consciousness. What you're doing in the world is what's making your life the way it is. What you're thinking is making your life the way it is. It's not fair. Some people have a rough deal. And it's not a blame game now, but when people are struggling, they're creating their struggle. So what can you do rather than being focused on the world being fair? How about a world that's free? And there are a lot of places on this planet where people would say they're not free. But everyone has the freedom of thought. Everyone has the freedom to think what they want. And out of those thoughts come our lives. Our lives don't become anything without our thoughts. Our thoughts are the guiding principles of our lives. So remembering whenever it looks like something isn't fair, and God knows I've been in those, where I'm feeling like, this isn't fair. And I go, oh yeah, nobody said it was supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be my choice. It's supposed to be my way of being me. And when I do that, I'm free. So I invite us to get rid of that fairness or unfairness filter that we've got set up to say that some things, that's not fair. To go to the place of freedom. And remember that you're always at choice. You always get to choose your path. This is the way to live our lives. Okay. Taking things personal. Personalizing everything. Thinking that somebody's against you. Thinking that things aren't working out. I want you to know everything's working out. It's working out according to your consciousness. Every single thing that you do adds to that. So if you're feeling like something's against you, you're at the front of the line of being against you. The world is not against you. Yeah, you know of things where people take pot shots. Absolutely. That's their issue, not yours. That's their problem, not yours. The only one that matters as to whether you're making your life what it's supposed to be is you. And if you take things personal, that gets in your way. Don't do it. Don't take it personal. Let's spend our time being empowered. Empowering ourselves and one another. It's amazing how much believing in other people and encouraging other people and seeing the power in other people lifts us up. It's the best way. The hard way is to say, I'm really good. I'm really good at this. I'm a very talented person. You know, there gets a point where you're beating that drum and it sounds a little weird. But if you're telling the people around you how amazing they are, they're going to see how amazing you are. And everyone's going to be lifted up. That's what empowerment is. So it's time for us to get rid of that filter that says anything is against us and go with the idea that we are infinitely powerful to create our lives. And so is everyone else around us. And when we support them, we create those relationships that are alliances and support points in our lives that make us stronger and clearer. This is where we need to be. This would be our filter. And our final one of my personal favorites. We all have this. Don't deny it. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but it's true that we all have a blaming filter. When does the blaming filter come up? When something doesn't go our way. Oftentimes when we've done something we're not pleased with, then we start looking around for who caused this? Who made this happen? Who can I blame? Not that it helps in any way, shape, or form because you're still focused on the problem. Blaming doesn't go anywhere. Blaming is a waste of time. Blaming holds you in the problem, whatever the problem you think is. And you want to get out of the problem. You want to move beyond the problem. So what are you going to do? You're going to reframe it. Because every time you think there's a problem going on, there's something bigger going on, something more wonderful going on that you're just not seeing because the filters in your mind are telling you that this is bad or wrong or it's not working or it's trouble. No trouble. No trouble. Refuse that and reframe whatever's going on to work for you. And yes, maybe you're lying to yourself, but only in the moment because if you believe that, your life will turn into it. So that thing that looks like a lie in the moment is truly an affirmation that's saying there's a better way to see this. There's a better way to work with this. There's a better way to be with this. And when I do, I'm no longer caught in a blame game. Now I'm moving into what am I going to do with this information that I have? The truth is those hundreds of billions of points of data that keep coming to our lives over and over again are only the truth if we say they're the truth. And what we believe and what we act on is what makes our life work. Not the events outside of us. It's what we do with that information. It's how we process that information. It's how we see ourselves in the midst of that information. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. I'm not sure I absolutely agree with that, but I do know that when we do something over and over and over again, it becomes more embedded in our subconscious mind. And it's harder for us to see it. It's harder for us to do anything about it. But when we can see it, when we're willing to question that reactivity that pops up in a moment, and maybe not accept it like we always have, we are free to create whatever outcome we want. We are free to make our lives the way we want in spite of the data that we've received. When we do that, we get the life we want. When we focus on the things that aren't working for us, we make them problems and we get them caught in these filters. We embed them more deeply in our subjective, subconscious mind and in our lives. So it's time to let this stuff go. Now, I can't possibly tell you what they are within you. These were just some examples I came up from me. But there's things in you that aren't serving you anymore. And if you'll watch and monitor yourself, not in a judgmental way. This is in a discerning way. If you will watch what's coming out of your mind, sometimes out of your mouth, if you're an extrovert like me, it may not be what you want anymore. And if you can let that go and replace it with something that does create the life you want, you'll have the life you want. It's just that simple. So what do you think? You willing to take a look at some of these things? Yes. Good. Have fun with this. This can be a ball, finding these things and turning them around. It can be very liberating and very full. I wish you well with it. God bless you. Thank you. Yay! Thank you. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our welcomers have come forward. Who's here for the very first time today? Who showed up at Center for Spiritual Living Asheville for the first time, ready to change your life? Hello, person back there with a Marielle. What's your name? Laura? Laurel, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Bruce has a card for you. If you want to know more about what's going on at our center, you can give us your name and address. Just give us your email if you just want email only, and check that little box and we'll send you our weekly e-news. Is there anyone else here for the first time? Well, then you've got it all, Laura. I got to tell you that when you come into this, Laurel, you've got it all, Laurel. When you come into a place like this, something happens, because there's an energy and a vibration here of health, prosperity, happiness, success, love, and joy. And we are not individual people. We are all part of the same thing. So as one is lifted up, all are lifted up. And as all are lifted up, one is lifted up. So when you come here, your life gets better. You can't help it. It just happens. And I'm delighted that you chose to spend the morning with us today. Bruce has a gift for you out in the Welcome Center, and I'm delighted that you came. Before we move on to our prosperity acceptance, while you're busy getting out your checks, I just want to let you know that we have decided to stop sending out the monthly postcard about the luncheon. I think you can figure it out without taking out a bunch of trees and snail mailing you. If we have your email address, you get a weekly e-news email every week. Today is first Sunday. Just remember that on the first Sunday for the last 24 and a half years, and will probably continue on for another 24 and a half years, we have luncheon. But we're not going to send you a card in the mail every month. We'll still send you a few cards in the mail when something's really important, but I have great faith in our ability to handle the calendar. I know we can do it, especially if there's food involved. And now I'd like to invite our prosperity acceptors to come forward. And I would like to talk to those of you watching online. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching these videos. Thank you. It is our mission to bring these teachings of science of mind to everyone around the world. And if you're watching and if you've gotten something out of this, I encourage you to go to the Donate Now button or the Donate button on your YouTube page. Click it and it'll take you to PayPal. Whatever you give to this ministry is greatly appreciated. Those of you who don't feel like you have anything to give, keep on watching. We'll teach you how to have it, because we live in a prosperous universe where there is more than enough for all. And those of us in the room, thank you for your generous support of this center, whether you're putting money in the baskets, whether you give through our monthly giving program, through PayPal, through the donation station in the social hall. I'm very grateful. We're doing great. We're paying off our mortgage. We're effecting change. We're starting a Spanish language ministry online. We're doing great. And I know that we prosper together. And that's how the center prospers, is by all of us lifting up into prosperity. So what I like to do is open my hand, put the gift on my hand and cover it with my other hand, and it just goes right to my heart, as I know that God is the source of all supply, that money is God in action, that we are deeply blessed in this life. We are abundant and prosperous in every way. We are living the good life. I know that the universe comes together in concert and harmony to support each and every one of us, and that we all have more than enough to do whatever it is we choose to do. I know that we come together this day, bringing our gift to Center for Spiritual Living Asheville, knowing that each one of us joins together to make this center all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And we'll repeat our investment affirmation together aloud. I freely and joyously give from the abundance and fullness of my overflowing wealth, knowing my gift goes with love as it touches and blesses the world. And so it is.